Okay, so thanks everybody to coming to this session on cutting edge programs in local schools. When Marcia and I were putting together a program, we knew specifically of a few schools and districts who were doing some really interesting and unique things that we wanted to highlight. So that's what this session is going to be about. So Clay is not Marcia Jones, as you know. Great substitute for Marcia. He's taking over Marcia's position at Springdale, as probably most of you know. So he's going to speak about their Race to the Top grant and how it's being implemented and what that will mean in Springdale for students. And then after that, Joe McClung and Cheryl will be here to talk about Leverett and share their good news that they just heard today from the Department of Education about becoming a school of innovation and integrating STEM at Leverett Elementary. And then our last presentation will be from Dr. Ben, who just walked by. Larry Ben, who's until July 1st, Decatur superintendent. He's going to share about a neat program they started last summer, giving kids something really constructive to do over the summer by pooling community resources. Before we start that, I should tell you that if you have a black Lexus SUV or a white GMC Sierra that's parked behind here in spaces marked for Raymond James and Associates, they might be getting towed soon. So if either of those are your cars, go move them and then come back and hear from Clay. Clay, I'll go ahead and let you get started.
Okay. I would wait. This won't take long. I would hear this and check on your car later. This will be riveting. You won't want to miss this. My name is Clay Hendricks. July the 1st will be the Associate Superintendent for Curriculum, Instruction, Innovation, and Technology at Springdale School District. It's a really fun job. I'm happy to be there. As you know, Springdale was awarded Race to the Top District grant, something we are super prideful of, and really we're using that to move our district forward in a variety of areas, and I'm going to share those with you. Our overall, the core educational assurance areas, these were pretty much prescribed to those people that applied for Race to the Top District grants, but adopting standards and assessments that help students survive in the college and the workplace and compete in the global economy, building a data system to improve instruction, something that we focus on, I have been focusing on a lot, as well as making sure we have effective teachers and principals in the classrooms, in the schools where they are needed most, and turning around the lowest achieving schools in Springdale. The award was $25,878,038.30. I know, well, I was trying to show everyone. Grant timeline, the most important thing I think for the purposes of this is we will have these funds to expend through December 31st of 2017. We've begun expending them as of January as we ramp up and get ready for year 2, which is next school year and the first big implementation year. Our three goals are to accelerate student achievement, to close the experience gap, which is important in a school district like Springdale where we have so many students that live in generational poverty and have a true experience gap, and personalized learning. So these are our big 3 things: accelerate all student achievement, close the achievement gap, and to personalize learning. And of course, number 1 and 2, you'll know, go hand in hand with ESEA and AMOs. We have audacious goals for the piece number 1 to accelerate student achievement. We are focusing on high quality pre-K, making sure all students are reading on grade level by the end of 3rd grade. They can perform in mathematics on grade level by the end of 5th grade. And for our English language learners, that they can move up 2 proficiency levels on the ELDA, which is being replaced. But that was the terminology in the grant. But they can move up 2 ELDA levels in 3 years in our ELL program. That's obviously something that we want to do. We have had loftier goals. We have not been meeting those goals, and so we're trying to set some goals that we can achieve, especially using these first 3 pieces, A, B, and C. For closing the experience gap, the first piece here is to support parents as partners in the educational process. We are going to conduct some events that we call college knowledge seminars, which rhymes. Career knowledge doesn't rhyme as well. We'll be conducting those, however, in the same way. And an increase in access to technology for our families, and that's really a citywide and a community-wide piece, so parents can research and be knowledgeable about things that they need to know for their kids. Certainly for us, we think right now is knowing about careers and training opportunities, including college, but also separate from college and those nationally recognized certifications. And then as well, technology integration into the classroom, which is a huge piece of the financial expenditure. And then the personalized learning, to develop personalized pathways through high school so that students have a path, they are known and know caring adults in the building, and to create a culture of collaboration by design, and that extends parents, teachers, and students as well. So we have 12 projects. We originally had 11 projects in the grant, and then we added number 12, which was the School of Innovation. Our proposal for School of Innovation, which we found out yesterday, was approved as well. We applied for School of Innovation status for our 2 high schools and 4 junior high schools. So those 6 secondary schools in Springdale School District are schools of innovation, so that we can run what we are calling the Springdale School of Innovation, which is an academy at a different location. And because it was pervasive, the School of Innovation was pervasive through all of these pieces, they asked us to just add Project 12 for School of Innovation, and we'll go through these. Project 1 was to get a seat time waiver. We did this. We applied for this through the School of Innovation process. And like I said, we found out yesterday verbally that we were approved from that. That's Rule 24.05. Rule 24.05. It's a very important rule. In order to do competency-based progressions, we need to be able to have classes last for as long as they need to or for as short as they need to. And so the big piece of Project 1 was to get away from the Carnegie unit, which is classes meeting for 120 hours. And the big debut for this is in the School of Innovation, which will open next year at the Jones Center. We're leasing space at the Jones Center. The School of Innovation will open there with 200, I think right now, 222 8th graders. And so we'll roll that up a grade level every year, and we will roll that into our traditional high schools and junior highs as we find out how to be the most successful with that. Project 2 is schedule. If you have a situation where classes don't meet for exact number of minutes and hours, you have to know how to handle those children and where they go and how they get there and who's responsible for them at certain times during the day. We thought that was big enough to be a whole project unto its own, and you'll see that it is project number 2. Again, the big rollout for this is to see how we can be successful at the School of Innovation next fall, and then to work on rolling that out into our traditional schools. Project 3 is advisory. The pieces here that we're measuring is a scale up of student-led conferencing at middle schools. This is kind of like what you know as student-led conferencing in elementary school, but with other pieces, including students making the goals and the data notebooks and all of those things. It is more than just simply student-led conferences. It's the students setting goals, collecting that evidence, and being reflective about the goals that they have met and the goals that they have not met, and why. And is that even a goal that they want to strive to meet? Do they want to change their goal? So it's a big piece here. Project 3, advisory. And then personalized learning plans and student-led conferences, projects 3 and 4. You see there's a lot of overlap here. But the implementation of a personal learning plan for every student. It's not exactly like an IEP for every kid, but it is kind of like that. It is kind of like what we used to do with CAP in high school when we all did CAP well. And we talked about what do they want to be when they grow up, and what classes do they need to take, and what clubs do they want to be a part of, and all of those things. So we'll be implementing that at middle school, junior high, and then re-implementing that well in our high schools in the coming years. Project 5 will be Pathways to Graduation. In this project, we're going to add 2 career academies this fall, one at Springdale High School and one at Harbor High School. Next year, we'll add one at Archer Learning Center, which is our alternative learning high school. And then in year 4, we'll add another new academy at Springdale High School and at Harbor High School. So, Pathways to Graduation, again, giving those students those small learning communities to be a part of, to know people and to be known within those small learning communities. Centralized pre-kindergarten, a lot of you probably don't know, pre-kindergarten at Springdale is all over. We have about 12 classrooms in the pre-kindergarten center. We have 17 classrooms in elementaries, middle schools, and junior high schools across the district. We have pre-K all over. J.L. Kelly Middle School has pre-K. George Junior High will have pre-K next year. We'll have about 45 pre-K classes when this piece is done. But we think that pre-kindergarten is especially important in helping to close the experience gap for those young students that we don't believe have had the experiences that other students have because they live in generational poverty. Perhaps there's a language barrier. For whatever reason, we know that pre-K works really well for those kids and having them being really prepared for kindergarten. Project 7, technology. Of the $25 million, $18 million is in Project 7. In short, we're purchasing Chromebooks for all of our students in grades 3 through 12, purchasing some type of tablet for all of our students in K2, and purchasing tablets for pre-K, not on a one-to-one basis, but certainly that they can have enough tablets in those classrooms. The rollout, it will be 2017 before we're there. We are adding, over the course of the grant, we're adding 5 East classrooms through the grant. And then we were notified that for this fall, East is helping us add 2 more, so we know for sure we'll be adding 7 East labs. Our goal is to have an East lab in all of the 29 schools. We're not there yet, but we know how we're going to get to have a total of 9 schools. And then as well for the technology, this is so important for any school district, but in looking at adding 18,000 laptops into the mix, we had to have our infrastructure. We're basically adding, these are the questions I get, I'll talk about this a little bit more. We're basically adding a wireless access point in every single classroom across the district. That's about 1,100 total. The backbone between the schools to the internet connection. All of those backbones are being upgraded this summer. Our connection to the internet, we're going to have a 5,000 megabit per second connection to the internet. That's a 5 gigabit connection, or 5,000. At your home, you probably have a 6 megabit per second connection, or maybe a 10 if you pay, for more. So we're trying to meet what they said we needed for Park and well exceed it, because we believe we should be able to have all 20,000 of our students engaged in whatever learning activities that their teachers deem to be appropriate. So the infrastructure upgrade is about $2 million of the 18, and then another important piece here, we're spending about $2 million on professional development. And you see that we're partnering with E.Y.E, which is out of the University of Missouri, and they're providing professional development. There are 7 different tiers of professional development for people that are really experienced with technology, all the way down to people that are afraid of it, over the course of the 3 years. So trying to keep the PD and the infrastructure in front of the devices. And people really want the devices, really bad. They want the devices. So this is Project 7, and some of the really cool things that we're able to do because of this grant. Project 8, highly qualified professional development. We are placing a huge focus on curriculum. Certainly curriculum that matches well with Common Core standards, with what our community says we need to be teaching to our students, as well as now, in addition to Common Core, we have the next generation science standards that we need to write curriculum for. We believe that we'll be writing curriculum for CD3, for the new social studies curriculum, and then a variety of other areas where we have standards, but maybe we don't have curriculum like fine arts, or we don't have curriculum that is as well developed and that supports our teachers as well as we want it to. So we have hired 12 people for this grant to be what we call a TOSA, or a teacher on special assignment. And they are basically curriculum writers, 4 for mathematics, 4 for English language arts, and 4 for technology integration. And those 12 people will work in concert with the 4 existing TOSAs we already have. I'm trying to say we will have a curriculum writing team of 16 people for the next 3 years to write the curriculum that we need to continue to edit it on a plan, do, check, act kind of cycle. And so my goal is by the end of 2017 to have what I call outstanding curriculum. It's just the best. It will be on our website. It will be available, obviously, to anybody that wants to use it, or send us revisions or ways that we can make it better. We'd certainly encourage that. We just want the best. So certainly your input. Project 9, a parent academy. We're adding more family literacy sites. We've got to spend some time working with our parents on what a student-led conference means, and why would you go to a conference where the teacher doesn't do most of the talking, and why is he or she not doing her job talking to me about my child, as well as the personalized learning plans. We think that if parents and families aren't aware of what those are, or aware of writing those, or not a part of the process of writing those or editing those, that those won't be terribly useful for our students and teachers. So we're really trying to bring our parents along with us as we implement these things, and not just try to do it in a siloed fashion. Project 10, strengthening professional learning communities. We've been professional learning community school for a long, long time. Sometimes things fade away if the focus isn't there. As we hire new people in Springdale, you may know we hire 100 to 150 new teachers every year. And if you don't have a real focus, these things get diluted. Today, we have 204 teachers at Harbor High School that are going through the National PLC Institute led by Rick DeFore. He's in Florida. They connected with him electronically. That started at 6:30 a.m. this morning because they're in Florida. So we're doing some fun things. We're trying by 2017 to be fully implemented again in the PLC model. Project 11 is about evaluation and coaching. You get $25 million. You need a lot of people to help you plan and to evaluate what you're doing along the way. And then how we will evaluate our work. Did we do what we said we would do? Did we do it well? And number 3, did we make an impact? Is the Springdale School District any better for the students of Springdale in 2017 than it was in 2014? That's obviously the big piece for us. And then these are some of the things we'll use for our outcome measures, performance data, growth data, on what exam. We'll decide that when we get there. Teacher and principal evaluation data, college and career graduation rate, and then our social services and parental involvement. So those are the pieces of data that we're committed to using to evaluate how well we do the work in this grant. This has been fast. I try not to read the slides to you directly. This PowerPoint is on our website. I think I have 90 seconds. If anybody has any questions or comments about this work. Yes?
I missed the beginning, but this is completely funded through the grant?
It is.
Okay, so how sustainable is the IT specialists, et cetera, all the other?
They're not the sit. Now, we had 18 people that work in our technology department. We're adding 6 for the rollout, to get these devices out into the classrooms with the infrastructure upgrade and to get all the kinks worked out. And then those positions will go away, as with the 12 curriculum writing people. That's why that 2017 is so important, because some of these people we're adding on, some of this support will go away. And so not all of the personnel will be able to be sustained. But we've known that this whole time, and that's part of the plan for the work. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
I had a question about the seat time waiver.
Mhm.
Can you help me understand what that means?
Sure. Rule 2405 says any high school class that is less than 120 hours will place a school on probation. So when you're teaching using competencies, the student remains in the course until he or she is proficient in all of the competencies of the course. And that may be 2 months, which would be less than 120 hours, or it might be a year and a half, depending on how the student can progress and what their aptitude is for that course. So if we have a student that is able to demonstrate proficiency on the 8th grade English competencies in 2 months, or in 40 clock hours, 40 seat hours, we would want them to move to 9th grade English, and actually 8th grade is not a high school course, but if they move through 9th grade English in less than
So there
120
be
clock hours.
assessments
Mhm.
done?
There are performance assessments associated with each competency, and the competencies are linked directly to Common Core
Right.
standards. It's like curriculum. Competencies are kind of between standards and curriculum.
Okay.
And I might have missed it, but is that going to be all done through a traditional teacher-student classroom model, or is there going to be some online learning to go along with that?
So it'll be blended. It's very much students can move at their own pace, at their own space, and their own time as they're able to. And when students slow down or they have difficulties, they'll have the choice to interface with the teacher that they want to, and then obviously they'll be required to interface with folks
And
to
that's
help
with
them
School
move
of
forward.
Innovation.
That's at School of Innovation, right?
Right.
For this fall,
Right.
we're doing this at School of Innovation to see how to be successful. There are a variety of models I've got to visit, and I know we can do this. I'm very excited about it.
Clyde,
Yes?
do you know what the academies will be at Harbor and Springdale?
Business entrepreneurship.
We're doing ag
Y'all are doing agri.
Starting
Springdale High School is agri.
next year.
Then I don't know what the one at Harper is.
Construction.
Construction. Okay, I've got people here. Agri business, that was the agri business at Springdale High School, and construction management at Harper. Those are the new academies for this fall at the 2 high schools. Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain how you selected what kids are able to go next year through the interview and their application?
They applied. Everyone that applied, every student that applied was invited to a group interview. And the principal, Mr. Rollins, explained the expectations of parents and students and asked them to sign a parent-student school compact. Anyone that signed that compact was able to come to the school. So far, he has met with about 182 of those. He's not quite done, and they have all signed the compact. And so at this point, anyone that applied got in. There was no selection. This was not selecting the cream of the cream. This was, we think I believe, let me say this, I believe that if this model is to be successful, any student should be able to go to a school designed like this.
See, because the impression that I believe that a lot of people received was that you were picking the cream of the crop.
Sure.
And that only
But we didn't
students-
pick, they applied.
That's awesome. No,
They applied.
that's very exciting.
They applied. And so we've got students that speak Marshallese and Spanish, and we have special education students, and we have GT students, and we have students that are going on to trade school, and we have students going to college, or at least as they have planned as 7th graders late in their 7th grade year. Let's be clear about that. However, I will tell you, we have a wide range of kids. That answer your question?
Well, so that means then on the seat times, that if it takes a child a year and a half to do the 9th grade class, what do you do then if they're not finished by the end of 12th grade with requirements?
Well, that's on us. You know, the onus is on us to make sure that they're done by the end of the 12th grade. Hopefully, kids that take longer, maybe in Algebra 1, are going faster in social studies and English and some other areas. That's what we know happens in models like this across the nation. But the onus is on us to get them done by the time that they should be done. To answer your question, I mean, that's huge responsibility for the school. Yes, ma'am?
Is that going to change your ending and starting date
No.
of the school?
No. We'll have summer program as far as we'll have the traditional beginning and ending dates.
We have
Are you going to come? Are you
I'm sorry.
I cannot call on
I
people
know.
with their hands
I'm
up.
so sorry. We have to, or else our next two presenters won't have time.
I know.
But Clay, you're gonna stay. Are you gonna stick around? You have to leave.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I apologize.
So Clay, do you want to give out your email address?
Yes, and I'll leave some cards up here. I am chendricks@sdale.org. Raise your hand if you're a Springdale person in the room. These people can give you my email address. I will leave some cards on this table right here.
Okay. Thank you, Clay.
Oh, thank you.
Cheryl, y'all are next. I know you need to pull up a Prezi, but we are
I'll start talking.
speeding through. Great. Great.
I'm Cheryl Putnam, Still McClung, and we're from Fayetteville. Leverett Elementary is right across the street from the university, so we're in prime location for some expert help, in which we've been able to receive this year. We started a journey a few years ago. We thought Leverett, about 6 years ago, said we have this awesome group of parents and students who are just as diverse as you can think the university. That's really a lot of our clientele. So we started really looking at our student population and their needs, and we have some students that were just at the top of the charts and they weren't moving. And then we had some students that were really struggling and they weren't moving. Like, okay, well, we keep teaching to the middle. So what are we doing? And we really started focusing in on coming up, just like what Clay said, kind of some individual plans for education. We started involving the parents, and we started looking at competencies. But at that time, we didn't have Common Core. So you all remember how many pages we had as standards. And it ended up that we thought, okay, well, we can't just make competencies of this, because this standard is also important. The state said it's important. They've written it on here. So we ended up with this long checklist that was as long as the standards were. And it was helpful for the teachers in one way, but it was so hindersome that they just couldn't manage it all, because we were still, required by the district to follow policy of giving grades. So we were trying to manage two systems, and then we started looking into what else can we do. So we started grouping students based on instructional needs. And people, durability grouping. But really, that's not exactly what it was, because we were looking at what is their need. So they may have been a real high achieving student, but the way that their learning style was, they needed slow instruction. And they needed some things that were on the concrete level. So we started looking at having different groups of students and moving kind of at their own pace, not with competencies, because we said it was too much work at that time, but what else can we do? So our superintendent, a couple of years ago, along with Dr. Tom Smith, said, well, hey, we're right across the street from the university. Let's start partnering and looking at becoming a conversion charter. So we started all the work. We had lots of help. We had groups from the university come over, and Mr. McClung's going to talk more about that in a minute. But it just all seemed so perfect. It's going to be a lot of work, and we were all ready for that. But then not last April, but April before last, Act 601 came about and started getting emails immediately. Hey, how about the School of Innovation? well, that sounds like a really cool name. It sounds way better than conversion charter. So we started investigating that and working on that aspect of what in a conversion charter is different than School of Innovation. So to begin with, we started we'd already had approval from the school to look into further research on conversion charter. So now we had to say, okay, you guys did a great job. Now let's see, who wants to be on School of Innovation Council in the school? Also, there was a parent School of Innovation Council, and that was one of the most eye-opening, interesting things we were able to do, because the parents are the university parents that go to school, and along with all the parents that we have a huge group of ESL. Some go to the university, some do not. Some live in the public housing. But what's so interesting is that we were required to have this council. And so we were really trying, we were offering food, we were giving everything but free rent to get them to come in at first. But the more focus groups we had with parents, the more people were excited to come in, and we got the best information and ideas that, as educators, we kind of come up with great ideas together, but they're all along the same lines. But parents all have this different experience. It's like this morning when we heard the panel talking. It's so refreshing to get to hear people from industry. That perseverance is the one thing that we decided, regardless of what we're going to focus on, that's the one thing that our students don't necessarily have. And I find myself, sometimes I've got my devices, sometimes I have several devices, TV on, and I can still hold a conversation. But if I'm asked to persevere on something, I can do it, but I'm going to be doing a lot of different things. So when we were looking at what are we asking students to do, well, we were asking them to comply. We're asking them to sit. Sure, we ask them to get up, talk to your neighbor, parents share, but we're asking them to comply a lot. So that's kind of how we got to our journey of STEM. We started looking a lot of information up. Like, how can we engage students? What's relevant to them? When we look at all the statistics, and you all can read, so I'm not going to read that to you. This is just a small portion, and we're like, oh my goodness. We're looking at these students, we're asking to comply, but we're really missing the boat in education. So what can we do? STEM focus, okay, but what does that mean? We're certainly, just like the panel said this morning, we don't want to lose sight of reading, writing. So we started thinking about this. But STEM is, you're going to read. You're going to be reading really high-level text, as a matter of fact. And you're going to have to respond to things. So we're going to have to really beef up our writing. So actually, when we started thinking about what does this mean, we started thinking about changing our instruction to higher levels. And we've now had a year and a half to kind of play with things. And we've had a lot of support from the university who've brought students and experts over in this area of STEM to engage our students. And what we found is that students are just eating this up. It doesn't matter if it's the little girl who only loves to do dance class and play My Little Pony on the playground. She's now engaged. You think, okay, there's the boys who just love science naturally. Of course they love this. But it really is all of the students. And they have learned, this is hard. The teacher is no longer going to help you. You're going to have to figure it out. And that's one of the most difficult things our teachers have said. And now our parents are saying, because we're sending things home to apply different programs for them to do at home. So no matter how hard it is, you cannot help them. They're used to hearing this. And at first we had a Dreambox is a computer. It's not computer adaptive. It's an intelligent adaptive program where the student put it on a different strand, and we intentionally had this begin at Leverett so that the parents, we could remind parents, you cannot help your child, you cannot do it. So to just end on that, we're going to go through quicker now. Perseverance is one of the things, along with the student engagement, that we focused on.
Okay, I'll talk to you a little bit about how we got to this point, to where we're at now with our school innovation application. When we started looking at conversion charter, we started to look at the different partnerships that we can pull from. And obviously, as we said with School of Innovation, you have to have those partnerships, and you have to have that School of Innovation Council in place in order to have a lot of voices heard. So what we did initially is we had committees formed, and with the help of Dr. Smith and also Mike Daugherty and a whole lot of other people that are, the list is too long to name. They came over and they started doing kind of focus groups with us. And we originally started out with what are areas of concern, or what are areas, not necessarily of concern, but what are areas that we can expand on, that we can become better at. So we started looking at literacy, math, pre-K, language acquisition, and also STEM. STEM, as it ended up over time, kind of became the huge overarching goal for us. But these different focus groups started researching what are the best strategies, the best practices that are currently being used, not just in Fayetteville, Arkansas, but nationwide. So we started looking at that, trying to figure out how can we enhance our programs and make our school, on par with those other schools. Also, with the help of the university, once we started kind of narrowing our focus on STEM, once we started to see STEM is kind of going to be the vehicle that we're going to use for this. We started to look at professional development with the university, reaching out to Mike and also Vincent Carter, and providing professional development for our staff. And we also reached out to Project E.Y.E. We were one of 42 elementary pilot sites across the nation. We were also one of 2 in Arkansas, which that program is expanding next year, and I believe there will be 26 elementary schools next year in Arkansas alone. So it's growing exponentially. I'm praying, Elizabeth, I promise. I'll share this with you real quick, and I'll share who I got this from as well. He's actually a Springdale teacher who's one of our parents, to Justin Minkle. This is his daughter's drawing that she had. She's a kindergartner. It's real hard to read, but what she wrote here is, "This scientist does math," and she depicted herself down there. And the reason I show you this is to touch on a couple of things. Number one, the research that we've seen over and over again says that kids become turned off to math very early in elementary. I think the statistics say 3rd grade, I believe is what it says. They decide, I either like math or I don't like math. Number 2 was a statistic you saw on the second slide, where it says 46% of the workforce are made up of women. However, only 25% are in that STEM field. So, this type of stuff is encouraging to us. When we start to see the kids are starting to see themselves more as a scientist, more of an engineer, and starting to see themselves in that role. Justin, when he shared this with us, he was just tickled about it. He was so proud of her and proud of the fact that she's kind of shaping her mindset in that manner. And just to touch on what Cheryl said earlier, these parent groups and these focus groups that we've been having, they've been so pivotal in trying to get information, trying to get feedback from the parents, because having parents and experts in our community, it's been vital for us to help shape our school. A couple of innovative ideas, and I'll just touch on these real quick, that we did this year. We changed our scheduling drastically. We tried to make sure that we had 2 hours of planning majority of the days of the week for our teachers, so we had vertical and horizontal planning, and also planning with our on-call rotation teachers as well. Professional development's been ongoing with the university. We've also taken numerous school trips across the nation, ranging from Virginia to Dallas, just trying to find out what are some best practices that we can implement in our school as well. We're always working on our STEM integrated unit, our curriculum, and trying to develop that further, and that'll be an ongoing process as we move forward. And we're actively seeking partnerships as well, not only with the university, not only with Project E.Y.E, but also with other schools in the community. One of our best partnerships that we have is with Westwood Elementary in Springdale. We visit them on a regular basis. And it's those type of partnerships that are kind of informal, that are so big to us. You want us to stop there? Is that good?
Sorry.
All right.
We don't have time for questions right now, but Cheryl and Joe, I think, are planning on staying.
I'm actually not at the meeting.
I'll stick around.
Joe will be around, so he can answer questions. So let's thank them for their participation. So for next year, we will have more space and longer sessions. Already, yes, I do. So Dr. Ben, as I introduced earlier, is currently still the superintendent at Decatur, and I asked him to share about what I thought was a really neat opportunity for students in Decatur that they created last summer.
I brought a helper with me, so I shared our concept for this summer learning program with Elizabeth last year, and she wanted me to share that with you all here. And so I've just got a short presentation that I'd like to make, and then turn it over to Jennifer Kinder, who's kind of been the lead teacher in terms of coming up with the units and the field trips and designing the learning activities for the kids. But the beauty of this, in my opinion, is it's more about playing to your strengths than weaknesses. So we're really not a summer school, and I try not to use that term because of the connotations that brings to a lot of folks. It's something you have to go to, and you're sentenced to summer school for so many weeks or days or whatever. This is something for kids to go to because they want to go to. It's enrichment. At the high school, it is either for, and we have online courses that they may attain credit, but they may also make up credit if they're behind. So that's available to them, but it's not just limited to kids that are behind or needing things. But the words in red, teachers like to teach, and everyone likes to learn. That's just a belief that I have. Most teachers, all the teachers that I know of, are doing that because you like to teach. And I almost think everybody likes to teach. If you watch a dad working with this child baiting a hook with a worm, you know, they kind of like teaching that child to do that. But those are enjoyable things, and learning is a pleasurable experience. Now, they don't like school, but they like to learn. You know, I think it's a biological need that we all have, or we don't survive. If you don't learn, you don't survive. So it's something that we miss. We kind of, for whatever reason, the joy of learning and the joy of teaching sometimes gets caught up in some of the other things. But in summer, in our summer learning program, we have the opportunity to just take the heart of the melon and just teach the way you want to teach, and just let kids learn, just connect with interest, high interest things and activities, and also that experience gap that Clay talked about earlier. We, I think, have accomplished some of that. So we try to capitalize on it, give people a chance to do what they do best. And I could probably talk too long on that, but you know, in our world, we really are creating, the system is set up to create cookie cutter students and teachers and principals. We have a model, you know, for our evaluations and all this other. So really, the beauty in life is variety and diversity. It takes a lot of different ideas and strengths to work those together to be successful. But we try to give people a chance to do what they do best. There's no standards for enrichment. There's no licensure required for the teachers. You don't have to worry about whether they're teaching something that they're not licensed for. No time constraints. We don't have to hurry up with this lesson to get on to the next unit because we don't have to cover a certain amount of things. So those are some things. And we also get a chance to experiment with innovation, online learning, project-based learning, inquiry, and relevance. Some of you wonder how we pay for this with NSLA, Title I, and Seamless Summer, because we also feed the students. This is still working. So what we did was get everybody together that has an interest in what happens with kids over the summer, so that these programs aren't competing with each other accidentally, but we get together and say, okay, the parents have an interest with what happens with kids, teachers have an interest, principals have an interest, the city has an interest in the parks, and as far as what are the hours that the pool's going to be open. If they're going to open up the pool and hire someone to run that, but they're having summer programs at the school and there's no kids to go swim at the pool, you know, those are just things that we coordinate. And the coaches have an interest in what happens with kids in the summer, right? We want summer workouts and things like that. The state has an interest in terms of nutrition, and there are dollars for nutrition for breakfast and lunch. We provide transportation. So we just got everybody in a room together by the mayor, someone from each of these areas, get in a room and plan out these summer activities for the students. So there are a lot of different interests. There's a schedule. Start at 8:30 with breakfast. Buses, we run 2 buses, and then the morning session starts at 9. We feed them lunch at noon, and then the afternoon session starts at 12:30, and then they go till 2, and then we dismiss the students. The buses take the kids home, and then the teachers have 30 minutes there that they're paid for planning time. And at this point, I believe I'll turn it over to Jennifer to let us know how she develops the lessons and the field trips. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm Jennifer. Okay, I'm Jennifer Kinder. I'm the ESL coordinator. I work with all the K-12 students because we are a small school. We started with the field trips. They were kind of our big idea. I don't know if you're familiar with Decatur, but we do have a very low SES population, high-low. So we started with trying to provide them with things that they may not be able to do. So the field trips we picked were Terra Studios, and they were the pinch pots that you see, E.Y.E Cavern, and Tulsa Zoo. Okay, and then we kind of, during the school year, because of test scores and whatever else, focus on literacy. I know we've talked about that before. We decided that the summer school program should focus on math and science for all the reasons everybody said before. We feel like that's really left out. And it's also, no offense to literacy, and that's kind of my job, but it's a lot more fun to teach. I feel like you can get kids way more excited. So we use programs like Reflex Math, I'm sure everybody's familiar with it, and Gizmo Learning. If you're not familiar with that, it's through Explore Learning, and it is awesome. Reflex is basically just to help our kids with fluency. That's one of the things that we feel like makes them struggle with test scores. The other thing is problem solving, and Gizmo kind of fills in that gap. It really focuses on critical thinking. One of the things that I noticed whenever we started using this, and our elementary school principal bought it, and nobody had ever used it, and so we were asked to start with it at summer school, which was a little bit scary for us, and we were really afraid that the kids would hate it because it did get you to think at such a high level, but they really loved it. The thing that we found, though, is that their critical thinking skills are not very good. It starts with, building background. They were not able to just answer the questions, so we really, really had to work with them, and now we find that that's the time of the day that we're giving more one-on-one help because this stuff is a little bit over their heads, but it's good for them. They need to be pushed. Just a little bit about the hands-on learning. Each field trip, we kind of picked a fun unit to study. So for Terra Studios, we focused on 4 kind of movements in art. We chose Cubism, Pointillism, Impressionism, and pop art. And the kids were so excited. They made an awesome project every day. We got applauded at the end of almost all of our lessons. It was just amazing. And that's just an example of one of the things they made whenever we were learning about Picasso. E.Y.E Cavern was a lot of fun. I love science. We just kind of picked everything that was fun about science. And for the Tulsa Zoo, again, we just tried to pick really, really fun hands-on activities. And I will say, I know we're out of time, but we received our math scores, and we did go up in math and science. And we hope that it was partially because of this.
You tend to get better at what you work at.
Yeah.
We probably have time for one question.
How many students participate?
That's a good question. I'm kind of the elementary side of things, but I also run the field trips. So we're averaging about 88 this year. And I will say on the elementary side, we've got about 42 a day, and only 8 of them aren't English language learners. So. And
that's in the district, and that's 4th grade through 12. So 80 students out of 4th through 12 in a district that is 550. So I knew somebody would ask that, and I wanted to figure the percentage, but we feel like it's a pretty good percent for the size school.
And we would have more. Every week, we have kids who come, and we don't turn anybody away. One of the things that I didn't get to say, and I know Dr. Ben kind of said it, but the fact that they get a hot breakfast and lunch is amazing, and to me, it's one of the best parts. Also, I don't know if he said it, but people from the community can come. Anybody 18 or younger can eat for free. So it's a really, really great program.
Does it run all summer or?
No, last year we had a 6-week session, but we found that the last 3 weeks we really lost a lot of kids. So this year we're doing a 4-week session.
Thank you so much to all of our speakers in this session. Once we conclude here, you'll be free to go and take your next session. So let's give these guys a round of applause.